Hey everyone, welcome back to GameSpot Studio. I'm Mike Mahardy. I'm here with the team from Sledgehammer Games. We're going to be playing some Call of Duty Frozen Dawn Zombies from the upcoming Shadow War expansion to Call of Duty World War II. I'm here with Richie Bracamonte. He's going to be playing with us. He's GameSpot's resident Call of Duty expert. I'm also here with Cameron Dayton, creative director from Sledgehammer Games.
Hello.
And Jason Warnke, senior game designer.
Hello.
Good to have both of you in the studio. We also have Jay, who doesn't want to be called out too much, but he's back here playing. He'll be playing with Richie today, our two-player co-op zombies. We're going to jump into it, but first, before we jump in, give me the elevator pitch for Frozen Dawn.
Okay, well, this is the final chapter in our Nazi Zombies epic adventure, and this is where the undead forces are sweeping across the planet. They have met zero resistance. Nobody's got the armament or the understanding to face them. The Bureau, which has been put together at the very last second, is trying to figure out everything they can. Hank Rideau, who's the head of this group, knows that we've got to figure out the mystery behind the energy that's powering these creatures. And so he had his team head down, and in the Tortured Path, our previous chapter, the sword was put together, and it looked like we had the solution, but Thule was not ready to let our people go. They got on an airplane. They were about to take off, and you'll learn about this in the beginning of the Frozen Dawn that Thule reached out and pulled them back down, as well as an entire Nazi armada and zeppelins full of undead. And so they're back in the very heart. You know, whereas before they may have been on the front porch of Thule, now they're in the very heart of what used to be one of the most powerful civilizations in the history of mankind. So we're going to solve some mysteries. We're going to come face to face with some of the most horrifying elements in our stories today, and we're going to answer a lot of questions that have been left spinning.
So as always, Zombies is taking some creative liberties with history, right?
Well, you know what? We're trying to tell a story that could have happened. I mean, up until now, Final Reich and Darkest Shore were all things we took great care to kind of hide it in the shadows of history.
Yeah.
And make sure all of the technology and everything that happened, possibly could have taken place. With the Shadow Throne, we stepped out a little bit more. We jumped in Berlin, and that's where we took kind of a branch, an alternative history sort of thing.
Right.
But we still try to keep it roughly within the bounds of what could have happened if there were some undead creatures going around.
Cool.
I mean, and also even beyond just the story, we try to keep the Easter eggs and the stuff that happens in the level grounded to science of some kind. Some fantastical science. And,
Cool. Is there anything else, any other preamble before we jump in that you want to kind of intro? We'll be chatting throughout, but...
Yeah, I was going to say,
cool.
I think we're good to
Awesome.
To jump in and see what's there.
Cool. Well, Richie and Jay are going to be playing, like I said, Richie's our resident Call of Duty expert, especially zombies. But yeah, let's jump in. So here we got our lobby.
All right.
I think I'm going to go
So as always, for people who might not know, 4-player co-op.
4-player co-op, those Slayers that have been with us from the get-go have probably unlocked all sorts of extra cool characters. We've had hidden special characters in every single level. But if you want to get the meat of the story and hear all the interactions and get some clues, I highly recommend on your first few playthroughs, do so with the 4 main characters,
Okay.
Marie, Drostin, Jefferson, and Olivia.
Okay.
We're going to open with a little bit of a cinematic that's kind of setting the tone of Allied forces that are just completely overwhelmed right now with the undead.
Okay.
Unconfirmed.
Wow.
Task Force
The
68.
voice of Hank Rideau is done by Darren DePaul, who also does several other well-known characters in the Activision Blizzard universe.
Okay.
Reinhardt.
Oh man, I was next to him at a Comic-Con panel.
Yep.
And and I didn't know it was him. And then Michael Chu, the lead writer from Michael Chu, he was up there talking about Reinhardt. And he's like, I think we actually have the voice actor in the audience, and I didn't know he was right next to me. And all of a sudden, he yelled out like with a voice.
No, Darren,
Yeah.
And then we've got Helen Sadler does the voice of Vivian Harris back here as well. And she's a very talented voice actor. So we can see we are just being overrun. We need to find the sword. The sword, unfortunately, went down in the burning wreck that we see right here. So our characters are trying to figure out what's going to happen. They need to look for the sword. They need to answer some mysteries.
Okay, cool. So one thing I noticed when I played, sorry, forgive me, what was the name of the first zombies from World War II?
The Final Reich.
The Final Reich. When I played the Final Reich, the thing that struck me was how much more, it felt like a multiplayer raid almost in the objectives that you were doing. Obviously, the zombies always had those. Like if you wanted to just fight off waves, obviously with Nocturne and Tote in the first one, you could. But also there's like pack-a-punch stuff. The story gets introduced, but more than anything, the Final Reich felt like an actual like, oh, we have to really figure out this puzzle to advance to the next objective.
Right.
It reminded me of like a Destiny raid, something of the sort.
Something that I loved about this DLC, and just to touch a little bit on DLC 3, the Tortured Path, we wanted in Tortured Path to do something different. We wanted to just jostle up what the standard zombie experience is, and we did a really good job. I know we had some opinions back and forth, but I really think we nailed it.
Yeah.
This one we want to go back to this, the kind of the core, the inspirational zombies experience, and this you'll notice, if you've played it, and if you haven't, you should. The Easter egg in this path is a little bit more, it is less TFR. It's not as linear. There's a lot to do.
Yeah.
There's just so much to do actually that a lot of people have. Gratefully stumbled upon little bits and pieces, and we've been watching. Cameron and I have been watching streams.
We were up all night last night watching the unraveling, and that's the great thing. There's no one central way to solve this or go through. You kind of get to choose your own adventure, I guess you could say. but carrying on a lot of what we have from Final Reich, story is a big part of the Sledgehammer take on Nazi zombies, and we wanted it to be something with very little gaming hand waving. There's a reason behind everything you see that's taking place in this game, a narrative reason behind as well as a gameplay reason, and it's a lot of fun being on the tail end of the DLC right now because we've got a team, a sound team, animation, art, design team that has perfected their use of these tools, perfected how they create with it. Oh, and this is the Corpse Eater.
Yeah.
He's kind of our new bad guy. The Corpse Eater is I guess he's officially not a Nazi zombie. He's a Thulean zombie.
Oh, it's like the original civilization, kind of,
Yes.
not like an actual.
Exactly.
Okay.
These were the people who figured out how to bring the dead back to life. Who figured
gotcha.
out how to use what the Nazis later called Geistkraft. And so now that the city is beginning to stir, the ice is beginning to melt, the blood is beginning to run through the city, we're seeing some of the most powerful members of the civilization, some of their greatest warriors are waking up again. And of course, when they get up, they're starving. The city is starving for the energy that's been stolen. And so the first thing they're going to go for is the zombies that are powered by this energy. They're going to try and regenerate and rejuvenate themselves. And once they're satiated they're probably going to go after warm-blooded individuals. So highly recommend you get in on them and knock them out before they get all filled up because they're going to get a lot more powerful.
Something you mentioned, I just love the art design and the level design, and really the design of this whole level, the idea that this city, Thule, this ancient city, is starving.
Yeah.
It has been sitting here for
Like
tens of
hibernating
thousands
almost?
of years.
Yeah.
Under the ice, just waiting for something to finally awaken it. And so there's, you see in one of the other areas, actually kind of beneath that window that you were walking around just a couple seconds ago, there's these just glacial melts of red. It looks like blood. Yeah. Maybe it's blood, maybe it's not.
Well, and this was inspired by actual photographs. Have you seen these photographs of glaciers in Antarctica that are pouring with red? It's very iron-rich seawater.
Gotcha.
It looks like blood.
Blood's way cooler.
Yeah. And so we're like, let's play into that. And one of my favorite little bits of trivia that I like to annoy people with is the fact that chemically, seawater and human blood are not that different. When you get down to the core breakdown, obviously the blood cells are different. So
We're just full of fish guts.
Exactly.
And I drink both.
And there you go.
What a weird joke. I just wanted to say sorry.
Well, it's a zombie stream, so I guess it's acceptable, right?
Anyway, joking. So before I forget, I'm sure I will ask you again later on. But you said some streamers are playing Frozen Dawn right now.
Yes.
But when can people watching get into this and play this?
Last night.
Yeah.
Everybody can.
We're rolling. We're rolling. Yeah, we wanted to make sure.
But don't play yet. Watch this stream and then go play.
Or watch and play, right?
Yeah, that's it.
We wanted to make sure. We really worked hard to make sure that when this hit, everybody was at the starting gate at the exact same time.
Yeah.
And that's the pride of finishing Easter eggs first and getting worlds first and discovering something first is something the entire community gets in on.
Yeah.
And so we do everything we can to make sure that everybody can get in when the timer beeps.
Yeah. We were talking about this before, but I imagine, you said it's little bittersweet, right? This is the last DLC under Sledgehammer before you hand off the reins to Treyarch, who's largely been marketing Black Ops 4 already. But this it's still under Sledgehammer right now.
We're also really excited about that.
Yeah,
too.
sure, right.
We are so excited to get in, and our brothers at Treyarch are doing an amazing job. We're so excited.
Real fast, you just got into the Death Raven event.
Oh yeah.
Good luck.
But as far as working hands-on with stuff every day, this is the last major expansion to the game, right? Like,
correct.
What's that like going into that?
Well, it's interesting because it's like I said earlier, each of our teams has really perfected the art, the craft of building these games. So this is, I believe, one of our most beautiful levels, one of our most intricately designed levels, one of our most challenging levels. When you guys see the boss fight, it's a thing of beauty. We just got the sight.
Sight. Is that okay?
Which
cool.
is you're gonna have some fun with the sight. This is one of my favorite melee weapons. So you love seeing like the team really at kind of the apex of their abilities with what's happening. And I think it is a fantastic way to close out. You always want to end with a bang. You always want to end with something that's going to make people hungry for more. And so. But yeah, also a lot of the team is now looking forward to what's happening next, and so that's we had a kind of a celebration dinner about this DLC 4 the other day, and it was I got a little emotional. It was it's been a great team to work with.
Not going for that MG42, man.
So wait, did Jay purchase the scythe, or was there some other thing that?
Oh no, he earned the scythe.
Okay, gotcha.
He earned it.
He survived the first.
Richie's
trial.
still stuck with his trench tool. It looks like.
That's all right. That's all right. You gotta have the trench tools too. You gotta have a shovel. If you're
talking about
something.
like the inception of this DLC too. We had a really interesting experience. Usually we get together, we start talking about what we want to do, and so we got together and Cameron pitched the setting to the whole level, and we just started talking. And there was very little no's. Everyone who was involved, the lighting team, the audio team, the environment art team, the animation team, they loved the concept right away.
Yeah.
So we got to hit the ground running and just go. And we also, we're pretty pressed for time, so we wanted to make sure to get everything we possibly could into this level, and I think we did an amazing job.
The team knocked it out of the park. And there were a lot of things, like if you go back now and you play, for instance, the Shadowed Throne, you'll see, okay, that's where we were trying out how to melee weapons work with this game. We had an array of melee weapons that we kind of introduced there. We wanted to see how they worked in the game. We also wanted to see how the audience, how the players dealt with that. Because this is largely this game's a shooter. And so are we going to have a good audience response to a bat with nails in it and a dagger and all these other things, and the response was overwhelmingly positive, which we just took as we'd been aiming for the release of these the Raven Lord's weapons here, but we got to kind of do some practice swings in Shadowed Throne to lead towards this, and that's something I love about the DLC season is there's an evolution of our understanding what the audience wants, as well as a complexity of the design as we move past each chapter.
Yeah, one thing that's been super fun for me to watch, as someone who has been with zombies since Nocturne Toten, it's been awesome to see once Infinity Ward and Sledgehammer also started doing zombies.
Right.
Obviously, Infinity Ward for the first time was doing it with Infinite Warfare last year. That was the first time they actually did zombies. It's been cool to see each studio's take on it. Obviously, Treyarch establishing it with what was very much a pet project at the time, and then all of a sudden blew up into many people, myself included, kind of have stuck with the series largely as a result of zombies over anything else. Not that obviously there's the three pillars of zombie multiplayer campaign. Well, zombies and multiplayer now with Black Ops 4 coming out, but zombies has very much become its own thing. The Zombie Chronicles that came out last year was awesome to play through all those classics.
The funny thing, the phrase you just used is very key. It was a pet project.
Yeah.
The whole zombies veneer, the game, every version of this has been a product of love from the development team.
Yep.
It's so much fun to work on this stuff. It's so much fun to work on this stuff. It's so much fun to watch people play it afterwards.
Yeah. Well, to be part of the community, we've got probably one of the most active, vocal, sharply critical communities out in gaming, and we love it because it means that we are going to know immediately. We're going to have a temperature gauge of what did we change that was appreciated, what did we change that was viciously hated, what did we change that was where they're seeing some hope right there, and it's like a force of nature that we try to be aware of and included with, And that's part of the fun. I mean, it's like Christmas morning, the night after the release, and we're watching everybody. You've got the gasps of horror, the grumbling, the cheers, and everything else, and a lot of these mysteries and Easter eggs that we spent months calculating and twisting and tying up, seeing them. Which ones are unraveled the quickest, and which ones do when characters or when players will run by something 12 times, like, oh, they missed it again. We're kind of cheering for them to go down in flames.
We do sit at the office at the command center with like a bunch of streams, all just live.
Right.
Watching.
It's like an NSA office.
And we have that. It kind of feels like watching football or something, and someone's just almost there, and you're like, oh, you're gonna get it.
The stock exchange
Exactly.
monitor.
Yeah, totally.
Which actually reminds me, if you are watching right now on YouTube or GameSpot and you've been playing this since it came out early this morning, or you're thinking about getting into it later today, a few questions did come in on Twitter. I can't promise they'll be able to answer all of them if they're like spoiler territory, but if you want to tweet at one of us on Twitter, I'm M. Mahardy. If you have any questions specifically for Cameron and Jason here, again, I can't promise they'll be able to answer everything, but
we're not telling you what's happening with the shield.
someone that was the first one. Yeah. It was So explain that to me. Is it some mysterious thing going on?
So
with
the
the
guys
shield?
have figured out the main Easter egg path is about 4 weapons. It's the scythe, the hammer, the morning star, and the shield.
Okay.
And they figured out how to get the base version and the empowered version of the scythe, the hammer, and the morning star.
Okay.
But they haven't gotten very far on the shield yet.
Gotcha.
Which is, by the way, my Easter egg.
That's right.
Oh, you
Each of our pro designers kind of took a weapon and it was kind of their focus, and so we're kind of like counting coup and carrying points according to like whose weapons got figured out sooner and which ones are more challenging.
Me and Sean were neck and neck, and then they figured out the hammer.
And so but I think we can safely say this: when you unlock the powers for each of these weapons, it just opens up an entirely new dimension of play. And so you might have your favorites right now. Wait until you see what they can do at their utmost. And you really do. You want to listen to what is being whispered in the shadows behind you, because there are some important clues being left.
It's so astounding to me that the game can be, I mean, I know it hasn't been out long, but that Frozen Dawn can be out even several hours and someone somewhere still hasn't figured something out.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, in 2018 for that that's like the old school video game community.
The power of collective consciousness.
Yeah.
The fact that we've got our intrepid, YouTube and Twitch influencers that are out playing, but behind every single one of them is an army of fans watching all the other channels, playing themselves, giving in that feedback, and so for us, every hour that goes by is a win. Meant that we were just clever enough, or
I mean, not to mention
canny enough or evil enough to hide it for another hour.
One of the most interesting things is also hearing, some of the major streamers say, "Oh, I wonder if it's this way," and then they have 15 people with suppositions that are completely wrong, mislead them in some direction.
Right.
And of course, I'm sitting, back behind the stream, just like, "You got it, dude. Just go with your gut. You know this thing. I believe in you."
I'm sure you can't talk about like the whole process behind it, but and I know like obviously Treyarch, Infinity Ward, Sledgehammer, you share ideas, you work like pretty closely despite being individual studios. But when you were finishing this up, like how much like consciously were you saying, all right, this is our last one? Were you worried at all? Maybe not worry is the right word, but was it conscious in the front of your mind saying, oh, we're about to hand it off to Treyarch? Or, I mean, I know it's very much your stamp on it, but how much of it was like, oh, we're about to hand it back off to Treyarch, we gotta...
We're very conscious of, like, I'm in touch with Lee and Jason, and we kind of know what we're all working on.
Yeah.
And so we've kind of got our own space, and at this point, we very much got our own signature styles and kind of our signature way of playing. In fact, we've made changes throughout the course of our seasons, just being conscious of, hey, you know what, Treyarch is going there and is going to do this, so let's steer clear because that's their space. And so it's funny because a lot of the fans see us as these like competing groups or these these kind of enemies, and in actuality we're all carrying the zombies torch, and we're just all kind of hitting a different type of audience and kind of telling a different sort of a story, and we're all cheering for each other's successes. And so we cannot wait to see what happens with the this new era of zombies from Treyarch, and we've got some big plans for the future as well.
Yeah, it's fun. It's also funny like that. With Black Ops 4, you're going back to a futuristic kind of, more futuristic than this style. This for the, presumably for a while will be the last World War II expansion for a Call of Duty
Sure.
for who knows how long.
Sure.
But yeah, that's it's always fascinating to me how, again, like despite the fact that Treyarch kind of pioneered the Nazi zombies, like how Infinity Ward, Sledgehammer picked it up and put their own take on it. Like you could play a Call of Duty game for 5 minutes and be like, oh, this is Infinity Ward or this is Sledgehammer.
Yeah, and that I think is a mark of the success of the art directors, the design directors, the creative directors on each of those teams is putting their stamp on it, putting their mark on the game. And here's the interesting thing: some people, it's just like food or music or anything else. Some people it'll jive with, some people it won't, and we just want to make sure that the audience that zeroes in on our style of game, on our style of story, feel like it is the very best, the most well-crafted thing that they've encountered.
So, like, for people who've been watching it, we're watching Jay's footage. Richie is playing with him, 2-player co-op. What are we looking at here? They're on wave 12 now, actually. They just finished 11. What's the situation here so far, without spoiling anything, I guess?
Well, Jay,
like, for instance, how would you power up the shield? Maybe just tell us that.
No, sorry.
I tried.
Straight up, no.
No, we're not even gonna say shield.
Okay. So Jay did. Well, I'm going to say shield in a second, but Jay just picked up the base level Thulean scythe, and he just
He also just
got
saved
the
my life.
shield dropped. So you should probably grab that shield.
I would.
because-
I highly
there's the
recommend.
shield.
Oh, fine. I guess Jay will
Or
grab
Jay's
it.
gonna grab it.
So he has a shield and a scythe.
Yes,
So you can
you're
distribute
copying
it.
the Thulean weapons.
Yeah, you can
That's
distribute
not a
them among
sentence I've
4
ever said
players.
before.
You should definitely grab that scythe though. I mean, that's the big column of black energy right there to your left. There you go.
Oh, you can. So you can
Oh,
only
okay.
each player can have one at a time.
Nah.
Gotcha. Okay. I thought you could just be this
Thanks,
like
Jay.
arsenal.
You lit the way.
No, I mean there's a reason. There's a reason why people only get one of them.
Okay.
Ooh. So each weapon is actually tied to one of the Raven Lords.
Okay.
And there's a theme in the type of energy and the type of damage and the effects that each of these weapons have that is tied to those Raven Lords. And this plays a big part in our story. Their abilities are kind of a balance to the overall undead energy that's happening.
And even the attacks and the abilities that each of the weapons do resonate with the core of that Raven Lord as well, and there's a purpose for each of their abilities.
So watching Jay play, it looks like the shield is like crowd control a little bit, like almost like a medieval or an old school riot shield kind of,
Yeah.
with magical force field powers.
Well, no, we don't say magical. Magical is not a term
With
that
science,
exists.
sci-fi.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
This is again. It's kind of funny because we've talked so much about grounding so much of our story in science, and I've got I've got notes of exactly how the theoretical science works behind everything we've got here. It may seem magical, but that's just science you haven't unraveled.
Yeah, yeah,
Do we want to have them look at the hieroglyphs real quick?
At the what?
The hieroglyphs. Hey Jay, you want to?
Yeah, hey Jay, if you
take
get
a
a chance.
moment?
So this is, the carvings, the decor. Nothing in our levels is there by accident.
Yeah.
Everything has a meaning. Everything has a reason that could open up a little bit more understanding about how, why, where, and when a lot of these things happen. And so I'm gonna recommend that you keep your eyes open. I see a lot of running and escaping the undead horde behind you is a big part of this game. If you get a chance, if you can have somebody else kite the undead somewhere else, get a chance to look around, look on the walls, see what's written, see what's illustrated, and could make things go a little easier for you.
Again, if you can't answer these, just let me know and I'll move on. But Beanbag Money on Twitter says, is the dark room a glitch or are you meant to be stuck in there?
No, there's definitely a bug.
Okay.
We have a fix incoming. It's down
Gotcha.
the pipe right now.
Okay, cool.
But some people have figured out what that room is for. I'm very proud of them. That
Okay,
was
so there's a purpose to the room.
There
but
is
it's
a
not-
purpose for it. Yeah.
There's a
Gotcha.
purpose for
Like you just said,
every-
there's nothing in there without a
Yeah,
purpose.
yeah.
Good segue. Okay, Beanbag Money, thank you. I'm trying to like read these through to make sure they before I say them out loud. Okay, cool. So, question to Cameron Dane specifically.
Sure.
This is from Ed59 on Twitter. Is there more to the story once we're done with this map, or is this a pretty definitive finale? Be as vague as you need to be. Love this season. Thanks for the hard work, guys.
We appreciate that so much. So a lot of what we like to do when we're building a fictional universe is create something that feels like there's a lot going on outside of just what's happening with the characters there. And we've been releasing letters and notes scribbles and things from some of our other characters throughout the season to give that sense. And so right now we're with our 4 main characters, and we're finishing the arc of their character. We're finishing the arc of what they've been going through. We're going to answer a lot of questions in this story. However, we have now set up a world that has drastically changed from the very historic World War II universe that we were in before. And this is a world where the undead are now moving against the living civilizations that exist. We've just woken up an antediluvian society here that had all sorts of, that is used to controlling everything. We've got a new bureau that's kind of an international group, the Bureau of Archaic Technologies, that is now taken a very powerful seat in the world stage. The forces of Nazi Germany are still very active right now. So while we may finish up this tale, it's a universe where there are countless more stories to be told.
Yeah.
So
thank you, Ed59, and then Jaden Brooks was asking, are the melee weapons the only wonder weapons in the Frozen Dawn? For future reference, are there any more that we could be looking for?
We don't like to give any definitive stuff as of yet until everything's uncovered. Yeah.
All right, Jaden Brooks, thank you for the question regardless.
Yeah, good question. We know what you're going for with that.
Cool.
Yeah, clever.
Yeah, like I said, if you're watching and you have any more questions, tweet at me at mmahardy, and I'll hand them over to Jason or Cameron throughout the stream. Thank you for everybody for watching on YouTube or GameSpot. You guys are doing pretty well. Wave 14.
Yeah.
This is all Jay right now.
I saw Richie died.
Check it out.
So we have the scythe and the shields
We do.
still.
Yep.
Oh, you're spectating.
Jay is Slade. Yeah,
I see what you're saying.
Base level.
Yeah. Luckily, Jay is familiar with the layout here. Now, which weapon was Jay's focus?
Jay was the scythe.
Jay created the scythe and the mystery around the scythe, and I think there's a reason it's a lot of people's favorites when they get it. It's fun to use. It's so slicey.
Yeah.
And,
Dude, we had a lot of animation to go into this, and I was so happy when the animators gave me the back and forth. The back and forth feels so good.
Yeah.
It feels so good, especially when it's empowered and you see all the
It was pretty satisfying.
just ridiculously amazing VFX.
Yeah, we're really into just there's the craft of making games, right? There's the progression, there's the math, I guess we call it the algorithm behind making things fun. But there's also there's an element of the art too, where it just feels good.
Yeah.
It's something you'll see in a lot of like the classic Nintendo games, or where just the jumping and slicing, and that was something that was really important for all of the melee weapons.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I know the word slicey is probably not an accurate. I don't know if that's the King's English or not, but it's so satisfying, right?
Yeah.
It's just.
I've been watching people play with the shields too. They're definitely not playing with it right, which makes me happy because they'll figure it out eventually.
When they'll
figure it out eventually,
right?
And it's going to.
Do you want to drop something about the shield?
I can't really adequately convey how many questions are pouring in about the shield.
The shield is kind of the big mystery.
I guess what I'll say is just it's right there, guys.
Oh, this is
you're just
hear that?
You're just
Right
missing
there.
it. I've watched
Unless
you
it was
do
talking
it.
to
I've
Jack.
watched you get close. Some of you have even talked about the actual next step.
Yeah,
But
we've
you
actually.
didn't.
That's the best part is when they're throwing out like 10 ideas, and like the third idea is like, oh, they got it, and then for some reason everybody ignores the guy who came up with
Oh my
the idea.
God.
I'm not going to tell you who.
it's those.
But one
it's-
of you within the first half hour commented on part of the
Actually,
step.
it's been said. It's been
Like
said.
you said,
You
it's
talked
like
about it
someone gets it, but then the
directly.
chat is
Yeah.
like, no, that's not it. So here's a question. I'm fairly certain this would be a spoiler if you answered. Carrie Leanne Smith on Twitter was speculating: are the 4 characters going to be the new Raven Lords?
That is a fantastic speculation. There are 4 of them. There are 4 Raven Lords. And I am so not going to answer that question. I'm sorry, but it is a great question.
Okay.
I'll tell you what. The answer to that question is it's in the Frozen Throne.
Yep.
Okay.
Give it a play.
Done.
Question to Cameron Dayton directly.
Huh.
Those 3 Klaus symbols in Altar of Blood. I need answers. Richie,
We
do you know what
want
that's in
answers.
reference to?
No, this guy's demanding
3
some answers.
Just 3?
Just 3?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I think I could probably answer this one. Lux, Lucifer Saved is saying, ask Cameron and Jason if we can expect a possible sequel. Right now, this is the definitive finale for World War II zombies, as you've explained it.
This is the closing of this chapter.
Okay.
All right.
So, along with Frozen Dawn, what else is in Shadow War that people could be playing?
We've got some fantastic multiplayer maps, just some really cool, and we kind of blur the lines. One of my favorite things with this project is being able to work hand in hand with the MP team, the multiplayer team, and the single player team. And so we've got, this is the very first Zombies mode that has characters from single player, that has map elements from multiplayer, where we've gone back and forth and made sure that there was connective tissue. So when you have the World War II disc, you're not jumping between, different weird, theoretical universes or whatever. It all is very consistent.
You find some weapons in MP, you do some summer event, you find some drowned zombies, you get a charm or two from zombies, you bring them into MP. We love it, actually. We love being able to go back and forth like that.
Yeah.
I just still remember the day when I signed on to YouTube or something, and then I saw that Johnny Trejo was going to be in the Zombies. Like, what is going on? I think that was the first one where actual people were put into it.
Yeah.
Obviously, Jeff Goldblum got in, Ron Perlman later on. But the fact that Johnny Trejo, that was the Arctic. I forgot. That was Black Ops 2, maybe?
Right.
With I forgot.
That's Sarah Michelle Gellar.
That's who it was.
right.
It was like horror icons,
George Romero.
right? Yeah, George Romero. Justin, Mr. Sog on Twitter, was asking, is there any update on the Tortured Path survival maps releasing to everyone?
We're still trying to make that work. We're still trying to get that through, and there's a reason when I put that tweet out that I didn't put a timeline on it, and so it's something we're still very very much focused on.
Man, Jason, you really riled some people up, or in a good way. So now there's
Who does
specific.
that?
Now there's
Open the
specific
floodgates.
people asking if it was their team or their stream where they said it was
That
the
was
right way.
fast.
Just another UK gamer
Not gonna
asked if
answer,
it was
dude.
his team.
We watch
I knew
a
it was
lot.
you asking, UK. But I'm not
be.
gonna answer that question.
We watch a lot.
It's that Manchester crowd,
Oi.
and he loves you both.
Oh, thank you. I'm just glad you.
Here's a good one. This could. So Lux Lucifer Saved, who asked a previous question, said, Cameron and Jason, do you have any recommendations for books to read for the inspiration of World War II zombies?
Oh. I like to mix up what I'm reading. I like to get into some, the good fiction stuff. I like watching a lot of films. I've got a fantastic 2,000-page book on Emperor Barbarossa, which is plays a lot of the core mythology behind what we've got going here. A lot of the comics by Mike Mignola. If you read any of the Hellboy volumes, check those out because Mignola does a very similar thing. He bases a lot of it on actual history. He does actual grave rubbings. Like a lot of the art in there is taken from architecture, is taken from actual historic elements. So definitely look into that. There's a lot. We've got a lot of fun science that goes into what we've been building with this again. So I'll tell you what. I'm going to put a list of the books that I use for reference for this on Twitter when we're done here. You guys want to check that out.
It's funny. I don't really want to give away too much actually, but a lot of the inspiration that came from this map came from various media.
Right.
I don't know if you guys have played this board game. One of my favorite called Kingdom Death. It's about big monsters and weapons and surviving this kind of horror situation.
Right.
There's actually this great book. I don't know if you've read this one, Sabriel. It's like, I don't know, 15 years old. It's talks about necromancy and the dead, and they use bells to resonate how the undead rise and fall, and I think it's really interesting.
You've been really into the resonation thing.
It's a great
Resonance.
word. It's a wonderful word.
Resonating.
I've been singing
Yes.
too much. I'm
Yes.
sorry.
They're using bells as like a metaphor, or for
As
the
a
actual...
tool to raise
The
undead.
power of sound.
Yeah.
Power of vibration.
Oh right, resonance.
see.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a lot of stuff, and it's fun because again, there's something about the kind of the collective creativity of the team, and so a lot of times we'll come in and we will bring in videos, movies. We open on very much a strong horror note.
Yeah.
The team has their DNA is in horror games, Dead Space.
A lot of Lovecraft.
Yeah, a lot of Lovecraftian stuff. So we wanted to open with that because horror, it tends to be a little more of an intimate story. We started with a very personal story with Marie and her brother Klaus and what was happening. But as the stage grew bigger for this, the story has evolved into more of a bigger kind of worldwide adventure that's taking place. And that was a deliberate strategy. However, we wanted to make sure that we ended on we kind of had a bookend that echoed the first, and so you're going to be seeing a lot of those same notes of horror, of personal realization, and
then
those
little did you know as a player, this is where it all started anyway.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
some of those horror elements are extremely important, and the adventure-y aspect of the Indiana Jones descent into an ancient location, that's also incredibly important and also implied TFR.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
What's the first zombies you worked on, Jason?
I worked this much on the Final Reich, but I was primarily on Island Beyond, and then Beyond.
So Call of Duty World War II was your first experience
The
with
Darkest
it?
Shore and Beyond. Yeah.
Gotcha, okay.
Well, yeah, we brought so Jason was initially on the single player team, and it's funny. As we're building these maps, he came over. He's like, well, just so you know, we've got this map, and I've kind of thrown some zombie spawners in. Like he had the passion for what we were doing so much.
Right away.
I kind of designed your next expansion.
Yeah,
for you.
Then I started. I'm like, can we steal Jason over onto our team here?
I was like 75% done with Normandy in the campaign level,
Okay.
and they were starting the zombies team, and one of my buddies at the company was the lead for a little while, and we were talking about all these different crazy ideas and how it could work. So I was, even back then, before the team was even made, I was like, I kind of want to, can I like work on that, please?
Yeah.
That would be really fun.
Yeah, because we got to, we went to Infinity Ward 2 years ago, or no, was it? Yeah, so at this point, 2 years ago, before Infinite Warfare came out, and we were talking to the Zombies team. I forget his last name. Brian was one of the leads on the Zombies team, and at that point, it was about to be the amusement park, the '80s amusement park. So that was like the last time I got to chat with people about it. Yeah, Spaceland.
I love that map.
And that was very fun. The dance floor was awesome.
Well, it's just kind of funny because I'm an 80s kid. I grew up in that era, so it was not only a fun map, but I loved the feeling and throwback.
They knew their audience.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I was not an '80s kid, but
The
I still enjoyed
Hasselhoff
it.
Easter egg was
Yeah, you could call him. That was awesome.
But it set a great tone that we could play off as well. You know, we're like, okay, if that is Infinity Ward, they've set a flag on that style, and the tongue-in-cheek, on the fun, kind of social commentary. And so with that flag set, we're like, well, we've got this great space over here where we can do much more on-the-nose horror and much more, and we've had a couple times we had opportunities to go zany and kind of go off the beaten path. I think probably the closest we've ever gotten to that is our zombie leprechaun.
Dude, that guy was scary though.
Yeah,
like,
he was
at
still
knee
scary.
height, and he was chasing you down.
Yeah, no,
stealing your jolts.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
God.
right.
Yeah, like actual some parts of like Irish folklore with leprechauns is legit creepy.
And there's a legit horror franchise that's got a leprechaun in it.
Let's talk about that for a second though. I love the fact, I wasn't part of the leprechaun development, but I love the fact that we got a scary little creature who had a scary gameplay component that was kind of annoying, but it really worked well. You want to deal with this guy, so you had to turn your focus on him whenever he spawned.
Well, and we
like
even
an
had
odd
a
job.
little bit of kind of some letters went out that
So
kind of
much tilt.
explained.
Odd job.
Like,
Oh God.
like the leprechaun actually fits into our lore. There's some letters went out that kind of explain some of Dr. Straub's more pushing the envelope experiments with different types
You
of
thought the
enemies.
Panzer was horrifying? Wait till you see the leprechaun.
Oh, all right. But
we have 19. All right, nice job.
Not bad.
You still got the scythe, Richie, unupgraded, I would assume.
Yeah,
no
no
offense.
progress at all. I thought you guys were good at this game.
And then to answer your question, we've the undead stuff. Even before getting over to Sledgehammer, I've been I was at Blizzard during the Lich King expansion into World of Warcraft, and I've done some writing over on the creative development side around that game. Obviously, with Diablo 3, we had a lot of fun undead stuff we got to do, and then I dipped into mobile for a while and did a Walking Dead game with Scopely down in LA.
Okay.
And so these undead projects just seem to what's a horrible metaphor, rise from the grave whenever I'm working on something. So a lot of that experience was what pushed us into doing such a unique zombie story. We didn't want to do voodoo. We didn't want to do black magic stuff. We didn't want to do biological, bacterial, viral infection stuff, because that's kind of the modern way to go with things. And so we looked at, okay, what was happening in science in this era? And there were some amazing understandings of physics, understandings of the atom. This is when the nuclear bomb was being first developed. and a lot of it was being done in Germany. And so we said, let's play with physics. Let's see what we can do that would still be a feasible way of animating dead flesh.
And we talked about this a little bit, but the one of my favorite things about the fantasy of the 30s and 40s, early 40s, is that kind of adventure of descending into crypts and finding old stuff.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
They didn't have the internet back then, so whatever they found, they would have to just kind of imagine what it was for.
And the technology at the time was just good enough to get into these places that had previously been out of reach, had been inaccessible.
Yep,
so we were able to dig deeper, go further, but we're still working on, walkie-talkies and stuff like that. So you were still very much adventuring. You basically had, the pistol on your belt and the whip on your back and the, whoever you've been able to bring with
and
you.
your hat.
And your
hat.
I'm not trying to push that one too much, but
too late.
But that's the feeling, and that's, I think, builds into the sense of horror with our characters. They're all alone. They're not. The cavalry's not coming to rescue our crew. They've got to piece these mysteries together. And that, one of my favorite things is when you've got people digging into ruins. They're academics. Sure, they're warriors. Sure, they know how to wield a weapon. But by and large, each of the members of our team here are experts in engineering, in history, in art, and in cultures. And so you listen to what they say. A lot of times will be illuminating as to where to go next.
That being said, I could totally imagine David Tennant descending a rope down into a pyramid. I don't know, something about that.
It's just fun to imagine David Tennant doing anything.
I mean, probably, as long as he's narrating what he's doing.
Right.
Lavish Lucas a couple times was asking if you'll be able to play as Oz from Exo Zombies. Going back to Advanced Warfare, I believe.
I think I can safely answer the no to that one. Yeah.
How many years ago was that at this point?
3 years.
3 years? Yeah. Well, that would make sense. Yeah, the rotation. There's a lot of Klaus and Oz fans in the mentions.
Oh yeah.
I'm glad people should like Klaus. Klaus is a cool character.
Well, they should. I mean, Klaus really, if you were paying attention to the notes that he left in the Final Reich, Klaus was instrumental to our understanding of really what's been happening, because while he was, kind of co-opted by Dr. Straub and brought on as a
co-opted is a really nice word.
Yeah, that's the gentle term to use. He was so fascinated by the history and the science that was taking place, because he was a physicist. He was studying at one of Germany's most advanced schools, and then had his career cut short by his father falling ill and needing him to come back to the toy shop. And then all of a sudden, he finds himself at the root level of a brand new understanding of physics. And so it's really his notes that have given the Bureau and Marie a sense of what's going on, what's happening.
I got Tony Albera on Twitter. This isn't really a question, but he was saying, thank you for implementing the shovel melee blitz option into the game. That was a great idea, and it promotes use of the melee perk.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to talk about shovel variants. I actually just wanted to give a little shout out to one of our coworkers. The shovel variants was one of our guys, just like.
Oh, that is what he said. So yeah, thank you for implementing the shovel melee variant option.
I mean, we've wanted it for a while.
We've heard you asking.
One of the guys actually stayed really late, a couple of nights in a row, to implement it, because he knew it was so important.
Yeah.
It was like something so cool. You get these amazing variants. Why shouldn't you be able to bring them to zombies? So
totally.
Thank you to Steve Borowski.
That was Steve Borowski, who has been with our crew since the Final Reich. Yep. Has been responsible for so many of the innovations and cool stuff here. Yep. And a lot of what he does is just, it is a labor of love. And yeah, he saw and heard all the shout outs for that, and that was all him.
Yeah.
This is for Cameron and Morky. Any chance of getting additional supplemental material featuring backstories on the Bureau operatives, like the Mountaineer and the Survivalist?
Oh yeah, I mean this is our favorite stuff to do. This is our writing those backstories. I love that the communities have been able to sleuth out that the Mountaineer was actually the Russian operative that we heard in the radio in the Shadowed Throne, and has been brought in. So
cool.
this will be so yes, we plan to do more of more storytelling, more backstory, more interesting character stuff. Just because I can't not do that, I can't shut up about it.
Yeah, you couldn't stop us. I'm sorry.
This is, I think you guys might think this is interesting. This is the first place you'll ever hear this. All of our characters that have been recruited by the Bureau are essentially heroes, characters who have stand out for their military prowess, their academic understanding, their abilities throughout the war, throughout World War II. Some of them are very loosely based on actual heroes. Granted, we're now in a kind of a skewed alternate timeline, but you might have some fun exploring and looking for where is this coming from? Who is this character?
They're getting
Like historical figures. that inspire them.
they're getting inundated by corpse eaters.
We got
right now.
corpse
This is
eaters
great.
that are. It looks like they've been feasting.
Yes.
We saw that. Well, the corpse eater was one of the ones we saw earlier, right?
On stream, it was just there's about 3 or 4 of them
okay.
consuming those zombies nearby, and Jay skillfully took them out before they finished.
And then John Rizzo, who asked that question, also says,
John.
whose idea was it to cross over some of the campaign elements into zombies?
That was initially something I pushed for from the team. It just we just had all these amazing stories being told on the single player, amazing characters having been built, and because I really wanted to, one thing that I wanted to make kind of our Sledgehammer stamp of uniqueness was you put that disc in, whether you do single player, multiplayer, or zombies, you still feel like you're in the same sort of a universe. You know, our initial pitch for zombies was this is in the shadow of history and this is taking place, and there's no better way to cement that than bringing in other characters. And so I loved the Vivian's character in the single player story. I wanted her to get a little more limelight, a little more exposure.
I'm so glad you did.
And there are actually some elements that bleed across from both sides.
I wonder if anybody found the super small minor Easter egg that I put in Normandy for.
I don't know. Why don't you just say there's a super small Easter egg in Normandy?
I shouldn't say that. That seems too much.
That might be a little too obvious.
First campaign level?
Yeah, because we've been talking about this from the get-go, but it's something that the team was 100% behind, and it's been really great because it means that we can build off of a greater story, sort of the meta story behind everything that we're doing.
My advance apologies if this is like someone throwing shade. I don't think it is, but Lucas Weiss says, ask Cameron what Rideau is up to. I don't like his attitude. Rideau is up to. I don't like his attitude.
No,
I think he means Rideau, not you.
Yeah, no, that's Rideau.
Just leave it there.
No, hold on.
So questions. I don't.
Because this has all been written. This is all out there. Rideau went from being the head of the Monuments and Fine Art Administration to heading up the Bureau of Archaic Technologies, and so he's had a perspective on this through the Allied side of the Nazi rise to power through this undead force, and how it's slowly just swept across and just knocked aside any of the impediments. He's also aware that the Nazis are losing control of it as well. Like they're trying to maintain an air of managing this, but the undead are obviously being moved and controlled by a much more ancient, more powerful force that was using the Nazis to allow them to surface. And so Rideau's just got a broader perspective on things, and he's been debating with Vivian about, should we go all in on this Hail Mary? Should we send our best warriors in to go get the sword? Because we know the sword, we don't quite understand everything happening, but we know the sword is key. And there was some debate about that, but he sees like all of our best weapons, all of our, the strength of the Allied forces just keep falling underneath this undead presence. And so the sword is a Hail Mary. It's really their last hope to get that through. The team grabbed it in the tortured path at the very end. They were able to put it together, and then their plane went down. And so the sword has been lost. Listen to the radio stuff. You're going to be hearing more about Rideau, about his communication. He's betting everything on the team being able to find that and end what's been happening here. So, I think he's got a very unique perspective of what's happening, and he actually might be the one more genuinely and legitimately scared than anybody else because of that perspective.
Okay. Lapis Lucas asked, can you talk about unsolved Easter eggs? I'm assuming they'll say, keep playing.
Yes, there are some.
There are, but they won't
there,
mention them. Okay, and then Ryan Holdstock, this might be one you can hint at. With the blood quotes, are they vital, and how literally should we take them?
Oh, all of the quotes are vital.
They're vital. As I said, there's not much in the...
weapons are speaking to you for a reason.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Klaus is just echoing. Klaus is taking a role and is echoing something that has been said and needs to be said.
You mentioned this before. Like, there's not much in in zombies that there's nothing in there that you put in there that's not vital, and that's what's
Yeah.
interesting to me about designing like a zombies map. Obviously, campaign is very tight and multiplayer, but multiplayer is allowing for PvP and whatnot. But zombies, you can be very concise. It's almost like a short story kind of.
Right.
I mean, it can be very long, but it's like the short story chapter of the Call of Duty universe. So you can make sure everything in there is essential to this story you're telling.
We're trying to tell a big story. We're trying to tell an epic story. We're trying to do a lot. We're trying to do some innovations, but we have a very tight knit and it's a smaller team that's doing this, and so that means we have to be. Earlier we said. Aerodynamic. We like the term necrodynamic with this. I am so gonna copyright that.
We have something in the level too that is necrodynamic.
You just gotta make the Wikipedia entry so it's official.
And so yeah, we don't have the kind of team or the kind of timeline where we can be putting a lot of frosting in this. And so there is a point to a lot of what's going on, and you may recognize and see things from. Previous levels. That's not by accident if you see that there. And this might be a good time to say there are still some Easter eggs in the previous levels that
no one's figured out still. Greg FPS was asking, do you have any specific inspirations for the puzzles scattered throughout Frozen Dawn?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, obviously previous Nazi zombies, but maybe outside sources.
I love talking about this stuff because this is literally the fun. All of the Easter eggs in the Frozen Dawn are based on the weapon. I mean, as you've probably figured out. But there's an interesting little bit of kind of fiction behind all of the Easter eggs. They're all based in some kind of science. There's some kind of like if you look really closely, the orrery, for example, is based on that planet. Well, actually, an orrery with a real star chart, and that whole mechanism functions kind of how an orrery would function, and the star map works how a star map would work. So,
which is something you've always been fascinated in, just been a hobby of yours anyway.
Absolutely.
For me, I just like the scene in the Dark Crystal with Aubrey spinning Aubrey. So I'm like, I want something like that, and Jason gave it meaning and heart.
I mean, maybe I had that movie and that book at home.
This is speculation, but Appleman1 was saying, Jan Minord on Twitter was saying, how long do you think it will take for the Easter eggs to get solved? Well, you just said there were some that aren't even solved from previous.
We have bets, but we don't want to share them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really interesting because I both want to be right and also want to be wrong. I want you guys to enjoy it, and the time it takes you to figure it out is all kind of, it is cheesecake to us.
Yeah. It's so is the record, did Shadow Throne hold the longest record for?
No, Torture Path. Torture
Path actually did. That's right. So we've progressively been able to create Easter eggs that are taking longer and longer. My money is on this one taking longer than any of them, though.
The shield specifically? Is that
No, I kind of want it to be less than Torture Path and more than
Darkest Shore?
Yeah,
all
personally.
Right. You just want them to solve it
I think
sooner?
that's the right sweet spot. I think that it's, if you get to a point where you just cannot solve it, it's like, this is not fun anymore. So.
Do you remember how long Torture Path was, roughly?
It was about 36, 38 hours.
Oh my God.
We count every hour.
I was thinking months.
We count every hour.
Okay.
No. And it's funny because
you guys just need to be patient. That's the problem.
It takes months for us to create these things, to craft these things, and these brilliant bastards just shoot through it.
We also don't sleep through that whole period, so we do need to sleep a little bit at some point.
Yeah.
You guys probably haven't slept since.
No. It's because it's around the world, and so just as the Americans are about ready to go to bed, our buddies over in England start playing. We're like, oh, okay.
I mean, our guys over across the
they don't
pond
have to
did. They started first.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
No, I mean, Cameron and I were texting at 2:30 a.m. watching people play, and are they going to figure it out? No. And then I went to bed, and I woke up in 7 o'clock in the morning, like, they haven't figured it out yet. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Tag team sleep.
Yeah.
Take the
you take first watch. Yeah. Aaron22 was asking, are there Zombie Master Prestige rewards?
We will talk about that soon.
There you go.
Yeah, that's not what we're going to do.
Jay, all right.
Jay's going to be back.
Yeah, Jay's saving the day.
I'm about to.
With his Lara Croft explosive dual pistols.
Oh, sweet, insta-kill. Let's see here.
Chronologically, what is the first zombies?
For us?
Yeah.
I mean, we're chronological actually. So
Okay, gotcha.
The final
We're
rises are
all in
first.
all
So if you want to get into the lore, the juicy lore of this, chronologically, the Thulians, when they first came across what we're calling Albadon, this monomagnetic ore, and they figured out how to use it to run what the Germans later called Geistkraft through the nervous systems of their dead royalty and guards. That's how they first began to gain their power. That's how their empire was established. That's how they kept their entire civilization thriving and warm in the slowly frosting over Antarctica. There's lots of evidence in this map of what other civilizations they influenced and how they maintained that, and really only through the grace of their own selfishness and hunger for power. It was actually a civil war combined with a new kind of ice age that locked them down there. And there will be some more letters and notes that are detailing this as Drosten digs into the history of these characters down the line.
So we're on wave 24.
Yeah.
If you've been joining us, we've been streaming for almost an hour on YouTube and GameSpot. This is Call of Duty's Frozen Dawn zombie map in World War II from the Shadow War expansion, which is out now. You can play it if you want to play alongside us, or if you... We've been trying to figure out this shield Easter egg, but we still have not. We have the creator of it right here, but he's not
budging.
The proud creator.
Yeah.
Of this,
Here seems like a specific question. Kingdom Hops was asking Cameron, can you ask Cameron about treasure zombies, and is the drop rate for parts for the smuggler low?
Okay, so the treasure zombies, that was... I'll give you a little bit of lore behind that. How about that? Because we don't do a lot of hand waving. We realized as the Nazis knew they were going to be moving across the face of Russia, the original plan was to involve the undead in Operation Barbarossa. What better way to go across the frozen, tundra of a lot of the Russian front than with a group of soldiers who don't need to eat or sleep and are not afraid of cold. However, behind them you were going to have the sort of the shepherd soldiers, and behind them the actual Nazi forces. And so the certain undead were actually armed with basically storage that they could give for the soldiers that came behind them, the living soldiers that came behind them. All of the abilities, the electroschnell devices, the blitz machines that our heroes are using were originally created by Rideau, by Straub for the Nazi soldiers so that they could both manage the undead and herd them and be powered up as they went behind them. So that's what the treasure zombies narratively are serving. As far as numbers go, I mean, Jason, do you want to get into the percentage drop there, because that's something that we debated. Okay.
Not really.
Okay, we're not going to touch that.
We tweak things all the time. We listen to you guys quite a bit, and we want to make things, especially kind of older things like that, a little bit more fun. But we have no numbers for you. I'm sorry.
No, that'd be a little too much under the hood, wouldn't it? So.
Yeah.
I enjoy the inside baseball stuff, but yeah, we'll keep on that for now. I got another one from Lucifer Save. Ask Cameron and Jason if they can give us a nudge to if it's true that the Raven Lords betrayed Barbarossa and then Thule betrayed the Raven Lords. Be as vague as needed.
I'm sorry, haven't you been paying attention?
Well, they
could have just tuned in.
100%. The Barbarossa, when he took this sword, he had this meteoric rise to power, and this is actually in actual history. He was a minor duke in Germany. He goes on this first crusade with the king of Germany. The king of Germany dies. He comes back, and in a course of 2-3 years, becomes the king of Germany. Then becomes the Holy Roman Emperor, so we're saying he came across this sword. That he was on a ship that was lost at sea. He encountered an opening into Thule, went in to stay warm just to survive. Found the sword, and it was this sword that powered his rise to power. He had 4 dear friends that were his warlords that he had helped him to succeed as far as they had, and they watched as this sword gradually drove him insane. As the power and the voices, there's something more that comes with this sword. It's not just something that you can plug in and have an undead army. There's more to it, and they realized if they didn't act, that he was going to destroy the earth, and so the Raven Lords actually assassinated him. They assassinated him. They took apart his sword and they hit it up. So it's their mysteries that we're first uncovering to get to the bottom of this. they were, I mean, not only were they powerful warlords, but Barbarossa, as he rose to power, had christened them, had blessed them, had knighted them, and gifted them with weapons that were charged with his own sword as well. So there's a lot of now that's the Barbarossa portion of this. We're now going even more ancient. We're going further back in time. And we're recognizing, if you look at some of the hieroglyphics on the wall, some stories have been told and have to be told again and again.
Okay. You had mentioned, a few people were asking, you had mentioned like other sci-fi inspirations, but other people were asking, are there any like older stories that are biblical? They were asking about like a parallel between the four horsemen of the apocalypse and the Raven Lords, Atlantis and Thule,
Right.
El Dorado and Thule.
I think you there's a reason stories become archetypes.
Yeah.
There's a reason stories become are told by disparate cultures on other sides of the planet. For some reason, they tell these
Simultaneously.
same stories.
You mentioned collective and
Yeah, there's stories of in South America. There's stories of a flood covering the earth, and there are these and the story of four powerful beings who provide both death and judgment and balance is something that has been echoed time and time again, and so we're playing into that. And of course, this is a game mode that historically has had four characters playing cooperatively with each other, and that just I don't know, dovetails nicely in with that archetype.
It's nice to take that co-op and make it part of like diegetic storytelling.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the fun as well behind the idea of this ancient Thulean race is one of our fun ways of saying, well, maybe these stories aren't archetypes because of the shared humanity, but maybe there is some shared history. Maybe there were some dark overlords, some masterful, advanced, and horribly twisted evil characters in our past that and it's often our fearful memories are our most powerful ones, and maybe those are what turned into legends by some of these early cultures.
Yeah, you think of like cultural folklore, and so often it's about like monsters or like I don't know, like what's the Mexican one I'm thinking of right now? The fable. It'll come to me.
Well, every
inspired
culture,
Tomb Raider stuff recently.
Yeah, every culture has a story of magical beings. There are stories of giants in just about every culture. Story of dragons in every culture. There's a story of powerful beings who were kind of above the even the greatest kings of the mortal realm.
And we even have characters, people who were alive that had fantastical stories about them, like Rasputin and Vlad. I mean, these guys were horrible beings, but also they started off with a huge following because they had something about them that people wanted.
They tapped into something, some sort of energy, and so that is just fertile ground to tell this kind of story. So.
So we're on wave 26. Richie, how's it going? How are you doing?
This scythe is awesome.
Liking the scythe?
It's really bringing me through. That and Jay, who has saved me like 5 times.
Jay keeps going to those blood baths.
We love the idea of like the scythe, the death raven. Again, talking about one of these archetypes, this idea of death carrying a scythe, and why does that myth exist?
Yeah.
And is there a reason? And the metaphor, of course, like reaping the grain and the end of the season of growth, being part of something cyclical. Rather than just a stop sign.
We also have questions about the colored grenades. Are those linked to the main Easter egg? Is that something you can nudge people with, or is that something you want to leave up to the zombie gods?
We like that you've noticed those.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty cool.
Good eye.
Okay. There's several different people asking about that. I don't know whose side I'm on. I don't know if I'm on yours, trying to keep these secrets, or trying to figure them out.
No, we kind of have to be bastards.
There's been some amazing experimentation with that already.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to nudge you. You guys are doing great.
So you said Tortured Path was the longest it took everybody to figure out the main Easter egg. That was 38 hours. And what are you on now for this? Like 8?
What time is it now?
It is like 3 o'clock.
Down to the hour.
It's 18 hours.
We're getting up to 18 hours.
18, okay.
Yeah. And I don't know. I'm predicting this because this is like the teams thus far have moved through elementary school. They're just getting to junior high.
Yeah.
And you've got to get a PhD by the end of this. And so we've got things are gonna get heavy.
Oh God, yeah.
That's gotta be fascinating. It's always like fun. Do you guys so like I know with like Destinies, for instance, when the first team beats the raid, it's a huge deal. There's news stories and stuff. Do you guys get to like call them out and like celebrate with the first
Oh
team?
yeah,
and stuff?
we try to we recognize when it happens. We we've made sure that we've got tools and abilities to see who gets through first, and we'll usually call them out on our broadcast. We'll send them. We've got a collection of letters we found from the bureau that we make sure we send their way, and
so
signed
cool.
by these by Tank Rideau himself. So
Keep trying.
Yep.
Keep grinding.
Awesome. Well, we can close out in a few minutes unless there's something you want to talk about or show that we're about to see. Maybe.
If we're walking through this area,
Yeah.
one of my favorite things about the Thulean architecture in this level is it's mostly stone, right? It's mostly stone and this like papyrus skin that you find in one of the other areas. But in this area specifically, you see chains, which is, this is supposed to be 10,000 years ago. How did they forge metal?
metallurgy was a very primitive art back then.
Primitive
right?
art, and if this civilization was lost in time, of course we didn't figure that out again for a very long time. But anything important that we found in Thule has been metal. The scythe is metal, the shield is metal, those chains are metal. So I just love this kind of
metal.
stuff.
Yeah.
That's my dad joke for the.
You're probably gonna do that.
I told my kids to do a dad joke here. Sorry. Something else I wanted to say. I've seen some comments about this. This is something that was originally in some of the dialogue that they didn't get through. The Thule itself has been trapped under the ice for untold millennia. And yet we've got gun boxes, we've got the blitz machines and everything else. So I've seen a couple of people questioning, why are these things down here? You need to remember, when you first start, there's the wreckage of some of these Nazi Zeppelins around here, the Zeppelins that carried the undead, that carried all these machines. And if you remember in the Shadowed Throne, the process, the attack process here is the zombies are the very first to land. The undead move these machines into place because they know that the forces that will be following behind them, both the shepherds and the Nazi soldiers, are going to be using those. So it was the Nazis shifting, or the zombies shifting into their attack mode as they always do. On top of that, if you've heard the voices down below the ice here, there are other forces that want our heroes to succeed. That want our heroes to make it. Yeah, something's trying to help you. So
giving you hints.
That's why there's some of these elements. Again, I know this is not a necessary thing, but we always try to have an explanation for everything you're going to see. It's never going to be, it's because it's a game.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
How about that?
You mentioned, so earlier in the stream you mentioned, Jason, you were saying pay attention to the whispers you're hearing.
Yeah.
So that's a tip for people watching.
The whispers and what you find in the trials, they're important for some reason.
The blood quotes are vital, all of them.
Read your notes. You've been picking up all sorts of pages down there. They're important.
One of the zombie teams that's been streaming has mentioned the solution, but they didn't actually do it for the shield. Is that what you said? Someone touched on it?
Oh, yes. They've talked about the pieces.
Gotcha.
But they haven't.
One of the members of the team mentioned it and was soundly ignored by everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
so like I
It's
thought you
out
meant the
there.
chat. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everybody's going to have to pan through their...
through hours
Go
and
back
hours
through your
of this,
archived chats, yeah.
Or figure it out yourselves. I mean,
We
that's
bit the dust, you guys.
Well,
Dude,
that's
the
the
timing
end.
is
You got,
perfect.
what is it, wait,
On
27?
purpose.
Nice job. An hour and how long did you survive? 18 minutes, did I say?
I just
Well,
missed
either
it.
way, nice job.
Yeah.
Thanks for playing, Jay.
Yeah,
and
Jay.
Richie, thanks for
Jay
carrying
got
the
it.
team.
Yeah.
I did what I could. It's all Jay.
All right. Well, everybody, whether you join on YouTube or GameSpot stream, thank you so much for joining us in the afternoon or at night or morning, wherever you're watching from. I know the UK crew has been pretty busy since
I don't think they
this
ever
came
sleep.
out.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And then Cameron and Jason, thanks so much for joining us. Any last minute things you want to say? Final, the Shadow War with Frozen Dawn, final zombies map, final expansion from Sledgehammer before we get Black Ops 4 in October.
That's right. Get in, play it. We'd love your thoughts. We'd love to hear what you think, what you loved about it, what you didn't. This is all tasty data that we're going to use to put into everything we do moving forward. So we've been. It's been an honor and a privilege to be part of the Zombies community throughout this season. It has been something that we already are just talking about so fondly, and so.
I want to echo the same thing. Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure, and also good luck on the next step.
Yes.
You'll get there.
Yeah.
38
You're
hours is the
close.
record to beat.
That's right.
Or no,
We'll see.
yeah, that's the
Yeah.
longest with Torture Path you mentioned. All right, well, again, thank you guys so much for coming in. Congratulations on a year well earned, if that's the right way to phrase it. World War II, Shadow War is out now. You can go play that and try to catch up with all these teams streaming zombies. Good luck with that.
Get down to Thule.
Yeah, but everybody, thank you so much for joining, and stick around because we will be streaming throughout the week as we always do. We'll see you then.